Welcome back to another episode of Cinema d'Amore. I'm your host, Chuck, joined by
Justin.
We're continuing on. We're branching off from weapons with The Warfare by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza, co-directing.
Starring Cosmo, Jarvis.
The greatest actor of all time.
Yes. I don't think he's a bad actor. That name, though, gets me.
It's an interesting name, yeah.
Greatest actor of all time.
He's a little more subtle in this than he is in Shogun.
Yeah, he was weird in Shogun.
He was weird in Shogun. The accent he was going for feels very, very weird. I don't know. I did enjoy that show, but...
He was supposed to be speaking Portuguese.
Well, technically, they all should be speaking other languages than what they are. They're just like put it all in English, or at least a lot of it in English. Other than the actual Japanese actors, the other characters are mainly supposed to be Portuguese, but they're just like they made the bold decision to make Portuguese English in that show, which is like the most interesting. They're like, do you speak Portuguese? Yes, and then they just continue to speak English, and you're like, they're supposed to be speaking Portuguese, but they could not get these actors to learn two languages for this film or this show.
I think there is English in the movie too, supposed to be English.
There's also, I think there's also people definitely speaking.
We said movie, but there's English for English, English for Portuguese, and then Japanese.
Yeah. So it makes it a little confusing, but
like whenever they do, well, they didn't do it in this, but I think The Wailing reminds me of it, where they did different colored subtitles depending on if they were speaking Korean or Japanese, and I thought that was clever. So did you
catch the connection?
Does it have anything to do with weapons? Like just a lot of weapons?
I mean, even more basic.
The exact assault rifle?
Yes.
That was floating in the sky? Did it happen
That's all I needed to connect.
Did they break into the house at 2:17 in the morning?
Probably. Let's just say they did.
I don't feel like they did, because later, whenever they're reporting, they're talking about suspicious things that they saw like right after midnight. So they must have done this earlier. But yeah, this is a war movie with a ton of actors that are like up and coming actors, I'd say, for the most part. Or maybe they've been around for a while, so I feel like you recognize easily five
pretty
of them.
Much everybody in there. I'd even more than that.
But sometimes I don't know all their names, you know?
Yeah.
Except Cosmo, Jarvis. I know the important ones.
You know Gandolfini.
Gandolfini. Well, what was weird about it was I watched the movie last night, but before that I watched the pilot to The Sopranos because it just happened to be on. And then when I saw this, I saw Warfare once already, and I got back. I'm like, oh yeah, Gandolfini's kid's in it. I always forget, like, when I remember that there's a kid in the movie, it's always like, oh, whose kid was it? Is it Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid or Gandolfini's kid? And I have to wait till I see the kid to be like, okay, yeah, I know which kid that is. And they're actually both, I think, very good actors. For being Nepo babies.
Yeah. Some people say that's a bad thing, but if you're actually a good actor, who cares if you got a head start? As long as you can prove that you're actually talented, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I don't really think there's any draw to having Gandolfini's kid in this movie.
He's not the main character anyway. I mean, it's an ensemble movie, but I guess the person that probably gets the most screen time, he's the commander of the unit, seemingly, is Will Poulter. He's kind of like, he's the one in charge, at least for most of the movie, of the group that's in the house.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of, I don't think that Gandolfini was a draw, like, as if we put Gandolfini's son in this, Gandolfini Jr., everybody's going to want to go see this movie. And I also think, like, going back to the trailer, which the trailer's very heavy on, this was made from the memory of actual soldiers, and it's directed by a soldier, but not really, because it's also Alex Garland, who's like, I got your back, buddy. It's basically a James Patterson novel. He didn't write it. He just slapped his name on it. That's the kind of thing going on with this this movie. But yeah, I think when you start watching the movie, like, and it starts with that, they're all watching the aerobics scene, and that's when you're like, oh, that person's in it. Oh, that person's in it. Shit, that person's in it too. Like that's when you start.
Together. But yeah,
And I do think that's a great moment too, because it's so loud and they're having so much fun. And then there's such like a dramatic when it does the jump cut to
it's the
night.
hard cut to night and them trying to be like deadly silent while walking around, but they're like still messing around, like dancing in the street.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is it's the runtime on it's not long, 95 minutes, but like somewhere around the halfway point, I just I'm not feeling it anymore. I think like the beginning, like from the moment they get into that house until they're more or less, under attack. I think that's like the more interesting part of like the whole movie, which is really weird because that's the least amount of action. It's literally just people. It's just more interesting to me to see what these people are doing, like in the quiet times.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, this movie I would say is definitely more, I guess, like an experience type movie. It's definitely more emotion than anything else. It doesn't have a huge script with a lot of dialogue. Yeah, like you said, they most of the interactions where they're actually talking and doing things is the first half hour or so, and kind of from then on out, the only real dialogue is kind of everyone just like relaying orders to each other or calling on the radio for some type of support. There's not it's not a character driven movie. You don't know anything about any of these guys at all. And for the most part, it's once you hit that halfway point, or I guess once they're in the house and set up, the whole thing's kind of in real time for a good like 2/3 of the movie. The only cuts are overnight from them getting into the house. Uh, I know what you're saying. I can see where I think that was like a complaint I saw people talk about when I like saw people reviewing the movie. Was a lot of people had that same like they were promised like a deeper movie, whereas it is like I don't want to say surface level because that feels like you're shortchanging the movie a little bit, but it's
It's
very
not
much
surface level, but it is an experience movie. So yeah, you're not going to get a bunch of. I mean, I guess the most interesting part about it is probably the fact that when they move into that house, they like quickly within the next day, they're like slowly figuring out that the insurgents are like on to them, and you don't necessarily know what it was. I mean, I think
which was funny too because I had the same thought. Like the one character says, yeah, because they probably heard you sledgehammering that wall down in the middle of the night, and like he's like I could hear that 2 blocks away. And my first thought when they were doing that was there's got to be a better way to like get into that upstairs apartment like that would be somehow less noticeable than hammering through a concrete wall in the middle of the night.
like just go outside and hope you're
Go
not
outside
caught
and
as
yeah, because they're like why is there a wall? Because there's an upstairs apartment, and they're like break down the wall. I'm like, well, there has to be another way to get to the apartment because how does the guy in the upstairs apartment get to and from his house every day? He clearly doesn't go through the wall. Like there has to be
the only
an
other thing I
easier
can
way.
think of is that maybe that apartment access to it's from like another street over, like
Yeah, I mean,
they go in the
or you
back
have to get on
way.
like yeah, you have to get on like a roof or something, and there's like a walkway across a roof or something like that that they couldn't figure out. That would
And
be
it's not
my
necessarily
sense.
like that's the thing that's probably the most likely reason for why they like knew they were there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like the only reason. Like they could have been seen, or like they could have just picked up on it being weird. Like, hey, that person's not doing what they normally do.
Yeah, this is speaking of we discussed Tarantino's list and his favorite movie of the 21st century being Black Hawk Down. This is there's definitely a lot of similarities I feel like between those two movies, but
Hmm.
this feels like just the less dramatic, more realistic version of Black Hawk Down. Like both are about military missions that failed miserably because of human error because they didn't judge things properly. Yeah, but everything in this movie is very much, again, I say it like realistic, and they say it's based on like their memories of what happened there, so it's not necessarily a 100% factual. It's kind of just them saying, yeah, I remember this happened, and then this is what we did here. I don't even know how many of those guys are still alive. I know obviously the guy that co-directed it with him and the Cosmo Jarvis's character are both still alive. I kind of assumed a lot of the people's faces that were like blanked out at the in the end credits when they showed them side by side. Probably a lot of those guys maybe aren't alive and they couldn't get permission from their families to show their faces
Yeah,
in the
that
credits.
was an interesting thing because what you're talking about is at the end of the movie they do the like side by side comparisons. Excuse me, which we normally get, but there were a lot of people where their faces were just blurred out.
Yeah, which again I'm assuming is because they couldn't get permission or maybe people didn't want to be associated with
They're like, this
this.
guy
Like I
does
don't think
not look like
anyone's.
Gandolfini at all, and they're like, we'll just blur his face out.
Yeah, the yeah, I don't know that no one's portrayed like necessarily in a negative light for it, but it was a touchy subject of why people were in Iraq and Afghanistan in the first place. So I can see why people would not necessarily want to be associated with it at all later on with any kind of recreation. But it does show that a lot of this stuff there aren't any like big hero moments where the characters are just like, oh, I'll go out and rescue that guy. Like in a Black Hawk Down movie, the one guy Tommy with the machine gun would be like running out into the street, saving everyone, firing off, and he's like terrified. He doesn't want to go back out of the house after their after their tank gets blown up with an IED. He's like he's scared the entire rest of the movie, like barely moves and doesn't want to go outside or do anything. Will Poulter's character like probably gets a concussion or something like that, and he's pretty much like, I'm messed up. I can't lead these guys anymore. I have to give up. Somebody else has to do this for me. Which again, in most war films, you'd get the guy being like, "No, it's okay. I can still lead. I'm a leader. I can take care of people." And he flat out just admits he's like, I can't do this. Somebody else has to do this for me.
Yeah, or I would say for the most part, like you said, I think it's the realism aspect of it that is what this movie's trying to go for the most, because it's not overly tense either when they're like possibly being like found out. There's no like sense of paranoia. It's just like there's that moment where they keep looking at that guy and they keep, like, he's peeking, and they're like, is he peeking or is he probing? And he's like, he's peeking so much he's borderline about to start probing. So like they're already like, I think they figured out where we're at, but they're not like sweating it yet at that point. They're just sort of like, we're just doing our jobs and we'll deal with it, whatever happens. But a lot of the shots too, I noticed like they don't, maybe it's more so outside, but the camera's usually very stationary. Like there's that shot of the woman in her robes walking by in front of the house and like walking down the street, and it doesn't have like a super tense like, is this woman onto them or anything like that. It just feels like it's just another day in this woman's life, and that's the closest that you're gonna kind of get to seeing how this town has been, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. This movie isn't that because to go back, I think it's another the two criticisms I heard of this movie before watching it, because you watched it twice, but this is the first time I've watched it. Was that, yeah, it's a little like there's not a super heavy plot. It's not necessarily as big action as people wanted. I know the other thing that I heard a lot of people say was that it's like pro military, and I don't even think it necessarily is. I don't think it's. I mean, most war movies are anti-war movies, even if they're not. But like other than straight up propaganda movies, and a few, you can find some examples here and there. But I mean, if anything, this does just show that no, everything about the military like was kind of messed up. Like again, Why were they even there? Their intel was bad, so they shouldn't have been there in the first place. And then they seemingly set up these posts in these houses and do a very terrible job because, as we see, they're all young soldiers who aren't necessarily the most level-headed people to have in charge of something like this. Other things like the bureaucracy and like chain of command to even get anything to happen with anything, they when they immediately know there's problems. Yeah, there's like three different people at the different bases that are all stationed and they're all like on the radios being like, yeah, I don't know, it looks like there's a lot of people here. Like I think they're going to start an attack, and like they have to go through 10 different levels of hierarchy to get someone to like make a decision of, yeah, I don't know, maybe we ought to get out of there. Maybe we shouldn't stay here.
Mhm.
And seemingly no one can get a good answer out of anybody as to what they should be doing. Or a lot of times they're flat out just told, we'd love to help you out, but it just doesn't look like we can. So just stay there. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, or like it's just routine. They're just going through what the normal things that they would go through in those situations that they trained for time and time again. But yeah, like you said too, maybe on top of the fact that I mean, they're trained, but they at the same time kind of seem like maybe amateurs still because they're like right up in the windows and everything. Like I didn't think they were very well hidden when they were in that house. You know,
Yeah.
what's that? Who's the Who's the actor from Stranger Things?
Joseph Quinn.
Yeah, Joseph Quinn. There's a scene with him, and like he peels back the curtain of the window with his rifle.
And he's just very visible from
Yeah,
to
it's
anybody that
like,
would be walking down the street.
but it almost feels like none of the windows are like. I mean, I guess I should assume that the windows wouldn't be covered up because that would probably just draw attention. But like they're all just kind of walking around like it's nothing, you know? I don't know if it's confidence or cockiness or the family that they basically have as, I guess I would call them hostages.
Hostages.
They can't leave. Yeah, they can't leave or anything. So, yeah, I don't know. Like that, I mean, that could have been another thing. Those people, like, they could be like, these kids never went to school today, or this guy never showed up for work. I heard some
Yeah,
crazy
definitely
banging. It
something
must be
going on.
those soldiers. Oh yeah, I saw soldiers. It'd be funny if like every possible scenario where they fucked up, they did fuck up. Like it wasn't just one thing, it was all of the things. But yeah, I guess you're right. As far as experience film goes, this does try to be as grounded as humanly possible. Like even some of the shots, like that first shot where they are trying to get into that tank and it gets hit with like a rocket or whatever. The shot's like really far away too. I don't stationary. I guess I don't know.
It just
It,
kind
it,
of happens, and then and
it
then everything's just a mess.
yeah, it just feels like a shot that isn't trying to make things more exciting and more tense. It's just literally like here's things happening.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And then
when
there
he gets his
again, like
leg all
the
like fucked up, that was pretty cool.
him and him and Cosmo Jarvis, yeah. Then I love, we've got two severely wounded, and then you had Joseph Quinn's characters like, who's wounded? It's not me, right? No, it's not you. It's not you. You're not severely wounded. And then when Cosmo Jarvis is like, yeah, give me the morphine, and Gandolfini like stabs himself in the finger with it, and he's like, oh God, I think I just stabbed myself with it. I did it backwards, man.
Or like after that initial attack, is anybody hurt? And Cosmo Jarvis just holds up his like extremely bloody hand, like whoops, I got hurt.
But yeah, something happened.
Yeah, and I could watch scenes where like the one radio guy that he was reporting to the base, where he just did that like old west cowboy stare at him for like no fucking reason until he smiled. Like I could just watch that.
But yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I'm into the
Re-
like the 5 hour movies, Charles.
I just want those long takes.
I just like people looking at people for way too long.
But yeah, this is I don't
I
know.
I would just say for something that's more or less based on a true story, I do like that it doesn't use that tagline. It basically changes it. It's like with great power comes great responsibility. With the Amazing Spider-Man, where they have Charlie or Martin Sheen like working around trying to say the exact same thing in a different way. But like they're sort of like other movies, not everything's 100% true. And like you said, most of the like based on a true story stuff that I think of is like Lone Survivor, where yeah, like you said, he's a I still didn't see that movie, but he's a hero and like he survived the odds, and there's all this like over dramatic shots and stuff like that. And
Yeah. Yeah, you look up so many of these movies, and I mean, again, even Black Hawk Down, I do like that movie. But if you actually do look into the true story, I mean, there's a lot of liberties taken with what actually happened. It's a little bit there was a lot of other countries involved other than America that assisted with that are pretty much ignored in that film. American Sniper, that's another one that people were like, "Oh, that was an amazing movie," but then more and more people were like, "Yeah, but that guy like lied about pretty much everything he did for the most part." So like most of that stuff's not even like it may be only half true or probably even less than that. So yeah, I think this movie at least does a good job in not not hyping up that this is a factual movie. Just saying like, "Hey, yeah, this is just how these guys remember it. It was literally one day in their lives, like 30 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, whatever the exact date was. And like, this is just how they remember things happening. It's not 100% accurate, but it's as close as they're going to get to what it was. And at least in general, trying to make you feel what it was like being there on the ground for one day, and everything's just a mess. Again, no one's a hero. They have to escape and leave in a couple tanks to like carry them away and rescue them. Which then, kind of like you said, the way the film ends with their tanks roll out, jets fly overhead, and then they get out of there, and then all the people like come out of their houses, and they do just kind of look around like oh, finally we can like get back to normal, like now that those Americans are gone.
yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that, but I think it's because it's so quick. It's like they're gone, the dust literally settles, they all walk out of their houses, and then the credits come up.
Yeah, because they all just kind of look at each other like they're not cheering or celebrating, like running through the streets being like, "Yeah, we did it." They're literally just like, "Great,
Back to
now
life.
our neighborhood's back to normal." Yeah, like we got them out of here, so our lives can just go back to normal.
I don't know. I almost want a letter from Iwo Jima, like switcheroo. I want to see the other side, where it's just like we know they're there. Just I don't know. Just keep acting normal. We're not doing anything.
Yeah, I mean they destroy that family's house, and they're just like, it pretty much is just like as they're leaving, it's kind of like, "Hey, yeah, I mean we're leaving, like, okay, bye." Like they just kind of leave. They don't even like, no one apologizes or really does anything. They're all just kind of like, "Hey, we're out. Yeah, we destroyed the entire top floor of your house, but we're getting out of here now." So yeah, it's a movie that gets in and gets out. Doesn't overstay its welcome. I think that at least helps. Like if this movie was stretched out to be like a 3 hour movie, and that's all it was guys running around screaming and firing their rifles and stuff, it would get tiring pretty fast. But I think it is just the right length to not be too much.
I also think too, like once the first firefight basically starts, there's not a lot of moments from that point on until things seem calm. It's literally until they roll away at the end. And I feel like even though it's not a long movie, if that's happening like around the half hour point or something like that, when the fighting starts, it's almost like a pure hour of just watching people strategically fight. So I think that's kind of where like I fall out of it. Like there are little bits that are still good in there. I don't think it's a bad movie. I would say it's a good movie. I'm not like I don't know. Kind of forgetting about it, to be honest.
It'll
Like
be
when you
just your
said
memory.
Warfare, I was like, "Oh yeah. That came out this year. We did do Ex Machina this year. And I think Alex Garland's I think Civil War was very good.
Yeah, well, that's where he met this guy. He was a military consultant on it, so I guess that's how he must have just kept telling him like stories about war, and that like made him be like, I don't know, maybe he was like, yeah, I've always wanted to direct a movie about my experience, and maybe that's where it was like Alex Garland's like, yeah, sure, I guess we can figure it out.
This Ray Mendoza guy, he's not gonna drop it. I gotta make the movie. That's the only way that this guy's gonna stop bothering me.
Emails.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we get emails all the time from people that are like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're just, I'm sure it's all AI written and everything too, but it'll be like, we're trying to get so and so. He's been in war before. He loves your podcast. And I'd be very impressed, A, if you did listen to the podcast. B, we're not always doing war movies. So, like, it's hard to find a kind of fit somebody in there like that. And also, like, I don't mind having guests on this show, but we are poor and we don't make money. So like if you're hoping that like, oh, we'll get a booking and we'll be paid to be on the show, like
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, we don't have the cash. Maybe if you were bigger, I'd find the cash. You know what I mean? But hopefully they would want to do it because they're excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I guess also too, being that this is another A24 movie, I kind of want to dive back into like what makes an A24 movie. Like what is it, something aesthetic, or is it just so is it just like something that's not normal? Is that what they're trying to do for the most part?
I think so. I think I would say that's their whole thing now, is just, yeah, something different. Like they're not even, it's for a while I think it was people associate them a lot with like different horror movies, but I mean they've done a lot of different stuff other than horror movies. I mean they've had a few movies that have won Academy Awards. So
We
they're
just did a
trying to
comedy.
go,
That was the
I
last
guess, a
movie
little
we
more
did.
prestige. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. It is hard. It feels like it's harder to pin them down than any other thing specifically for what they're doing.
I
I
think
mean, it feels like a
overall,
lot of their
good for
stuff's more
them.
up and coming. I guess it feels like they have a lot more up and coming directors. Like honestly, Alex Garland might be like one of like the most established directors to then. Although what Ex Machina? So I don't know. He was like a little more. It
Oh,
was
and he's
earlier
a
in his career when
screenwriter
he's,
way before that. So
yeah, but he's a little more established. But like a lot of their stuff feels like they're trying to discover the next like big director and do their first movie, because it doesn't seem like all these directors necessarily come back. Like a lot of them move on to like bigger things with the bigger studios later on that they can get a bigger budget for. But like
what is it, Ty
A24
West?
will,
He did all his X trilogy movies with them. I mean, but by the time X came out, he had already done Pearl, so he already had 2 movies with them, and then they greenlit the third.
like Robert Eggers, stuff like that. Like they've moved on a lot. Some of them have moved on to like other studios to make bigger budget things.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this. It's saying that the budget was $20 million for Warfare, and it grossed 33.6. It might not have. It might not have came out on top. I mean, I just remember seeing trailers for it, so they did market the movie. I wouldn't
Yeah, well,
necessarily jump
that's,
into saying it was a bust, but there's very likely that this movie did not make anything.
but none of them are anymore. That was like, that's like the same thing that with all of these movies more recently. Like none of them are making money. Like what was their, just looking at like their most recent movies, Smashing Machine didn't make any money. That
Um,
movie kind of flopped.
that movie was in
Uh,
theaters for like a weekend.
well,
I mean, their big movie.
that's their
They're
problem.
doing the other Safdie movie, right? They're doing Marty
Marty Supreme.
Supreme,
Yeah, I think that's them
and they're
too.
pushing that. They're definitely pushing that for as an Oscar contender. It's coming out late in the year. They believe in that one. So I think that one will probably stick around for a little bit
I think,
longer.
yeah, I don't know. I think their last movie that did really well was probably Bring Her Back. I think it is their. That's the thing. I think they try to do all these different things, and maybe that's what's keeping them along is the horror movies that they're making on these super low
Or like
budgets
Brutalist. Brutalist was a
that are doing
big
well.
Oscar contender last year.
Yeah, but did it make any money?
Well, those are the two different movies, though. You know, you have
But
the
yeah,
ones
yeah.
you have the ones that make the money, and then you have the ones that
Which yeah, I guess maybe that's their general strategy is like they can make movies that they know aren't going to make money or they're willing to take a gamble on, and then they make these movies that just like make a ton of money, which is typically their horror movies. They seem to make more of their money off of the horror movies than anything else, which hey, I guess if that's helping out these other directors to make their movies.
I mean, if you think about the model of what Blumhouse was doing, let's give them $5 million to make a horror film, and they can have complete control of the horror film, but they can't go over budget. You put that out in theaters, you're more than likely making your money back. It's whenever they go too big, which is probably this one, that they're definitely not making any money back. Eddington I think everything with Ari Aster's been A24. But his last two movies didn't make any money either. So they might not be giving him those, if he does another movie with them, those types of budgets, I guess. But like, I'm not
Gotta
all
make the money somewhere.
Well, it makes sense to me now. I remember seeing something, I can't remember which A24 movie it was, but I remember like the guy like 3 seats over from me had like an A24 shirt and an A24 hat. And I was like, holy hell, like this guy's a huge fan. And what I realized is they have this like membership program, A24, and they'll do things where they'll give like free movie tickets for like the weekend, and then they also give, discounts off stuff. And I think they give you money too. So you start accumulating money. So this has to be a guy that's in the program. If it's a guy that doesn't know about the program, I'd be actually pretty surprised. They're just like, I fucking love A24. I buy all this stuff. I see things on the first day.
And I'm sure there are some people that are just like that, but
hey, they make a lot though, because like even this past weekend they had Eternity, and that's an A24 movie. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully they stay in line and they can hopefully stay around for a while. I feel like you fuck up once or twice and your whole movie company's shutting down. I know what our next movie is.
But it has more weapons.
Not traditional weapons, but yeah. It's a movie we've both seen too. But since it's Christmas time and we'll release it on Christmas, I decided to do a Christmas movie. And I felt like
Makes sense.
If this movie's that makes sense. This movie's trauma, the next movie will be healing. So yeah, 2 weeks from now, Christmas Day, we will have another very special episode of Cinema d'Amore, and our last one of the year. And go back and check out our Ex Machina episode. I think it'd be interesting to hear.
I mean, I still think it is a better movie, but
better than
I like this movie, but I said I still think that is a better movie. It is still maybe his best movie.
Yeah, it probably is. Keep it up. Keep up the hard work, Alex. Thank you, everybody, for listening. 2 weeks. Bye. We're Cinema d'Amore. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with news and information on upcoming episodes. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, Alexa, or iHeartRadio. It would be greatly appreciated if you subscribe to our podcast on your platform of choice. We also appreciate feedback, so rate us, review us, and let us know what you think. And above all else, thank you for listening.